Welcome, everybody, to another Road to Worlds blogcast discussion rant stream. I don't really know what I'm doing here. You guys just keep letting me make content in here, and you guys keep joining it and supporting it. So I don't know. With me today, so you're not just listening to me talk to myself. I've brought one and only Mike. Mike, come on.
Hey, how are you?
I am doing so.
Thank you for inviting me to this blog podcast chat
blog
thing.
past road thing. Yeah, who knows, right?
I can't believe I'm hanging out with Dylan Macho Man Camacho.
Stop it. They can't. If I let that catch on, then they will not. Listen, there's two Camachos. We'll just say that the Macho Man is actually Brian Camacho. No relation.
All right.
For anybody who is wondering about that at all, zero relation to Brian Camacho. we are the definition of the it's not many, but two is like it's odd that there's two of them meme, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Mike, how you know what? Because the first couple minutes we're just letting people come on in. How's your week been, buddy?
Good. Actually pretty good. We my son and I went to Canada this past weekend for a store championship. Mm-hmm. So we, drove 9.5 hours on Friday, had the event Saturday, drove 9.5 hours on Sunday. And then the rest of the week was just kind of chill, like doing the work, setting up the podcasts on MMO Bomb and on Ready Check Radio. And yeah, how about you? It's been pretty nice. Nice weather. We had a cookout for Memorial Day. It was pretty sweet.
Yeah, no, the day off has thrown my whole schedule all the way off, right? So, I normally have Mondays off because I run my business, and I decided that 4 days was enough for me. But my wife being home on Monday meant that I had no idea what the days were when they were hitting, right? Like Tuesday hit, and that's like my Monday, but I was like, is it Thursday? What the hell? Like,
what day is it?
Yeah. The smallest little things balance off equilibrium.
Oh yeah.
But now that we've bantered enough a little bit, and hopefully some people are creeping and crawling in, and if they not, then we've got the wonderful VOD for them to check out afterwards. Let's talk a little bit about Kansas.
Yeah, what a cup!
What a cup! You know what? This has been. I'm looking at the top cut list right now, and I'll pull that up here in a minute. We'll talk plenty about it. This is a cup that was really feeling like, all right, I think we're starting to figure out the meta. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was fun. I got to commentate it, which was very cool.
Yes.
And I hope everybody enjoyed that. And if you like it, let people know so they'll invite me to other stuff. But it really was like it answered a few key questions, right? Because we had Florida, we've had some store championships. Obviously, when we talk about different decks, 13 is always in that conversation of, yeah, it's kind of wreaking havoc, but what is it going to do when it makes the top cut, right? You can beat anybody in Swiss because they didn't draw the board clear. We're not seeing it top. Now we see it top. And we start to see the meta kind of shift around it and be able to play. It was really wild when you see the top 16, that there was just a lot of diversity.
Yeah.
Where you go back, like thinking back to pre-COVID tournaments and even larger post-COVID, look at the top 8 and top 6, like wind, something, wind, soiree, wind.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And now it's so nice, like open. Wow, look at the colors. Mm-hmm. Look at the colors. And Kansas was not a disappointment on that front.
No, yeah, I feel like that diversity really has been the name of the game of this past meta. Anybody who's kind of been hearing me talk about this stuff recently I've been singing to the moon that I'm like, this is objectively the best meta I think this game has ever had in terms of diversity and balance. Truly, and what I like about a meta like this is that it truly invites a lot of brews to come play, because it just says like, cool, everything's, all the good stuff's coming in, but we have, good stuff in all the colors, even lightning, God forbid,
yeah, I think there's a few decks that like are primary player, like this meta isn't great.
Yes.
Lightning is one for me. I'm a baby. I've always loved mono lightnings when that was viable, and then lightning X when some of them maybe this could be viable, and then lightning ice with Alcid started to become like the preeminent ice X deck.
Yep.
But I still feel like if you're playing something like that, this is a meta where you're like, I hate the meta. It's strong, but again, can you win a best of 3, and can you do it multiple times
Right.
to get your invite? Conversely, if you're a wind player, you've been at
you're starving right now.
yeah, you've been at the trough for the longest time ever, and now you're starving. So I do think there are players that are dedicated to their decks that probably look at it and go, this is an unhealthy meta. I am unplayable almost in this meta. But I think you're right. When you take that step back, you might hate the 13 deck. You might absolutely hate that. And you think that Light Lightning needs to be banned. It was dumb play design. Hobby Japan and Square should never have done it. But man, just by that deck keeping Wind and Wind X in check and spooked a little bit, it's opened up so much more. Like, who would have thought at the beginning of this season, Dylan, that Leo might be a viable deck to take to a 116-person tournament?
Me and Emmanuel Note. All right, hold on. I want to riff on that. First of all, you're absolutely right, and I could not agree more with every 13 point about that. There are still people out there who are still saying it's not a good deck, and I'm like, you're insane. The deck is actually so good. It's warping the meta, just not in a way that's unhealthy, if anything, right?
Right.
So that's like a whole rant point that I'll get on shortly. But really quick on the Leo point that you pointed out. All right. So, of course, because you got to have your brews and your teams where you're brewing with people.
Right.
Leo has been on this list for me and Emmanuel for like months.
Yeah. It's all that you look at and you're like, man, to be, but I don't know if it can do it.
Yeah. So if you looked at our like DM history, which I'm not going to show on the stream, you would think that we are insane. Like the amount of mathematician work and like optimal still returns and how we like had to like turn 3, turn 4 guarantees has been nuts on Leo. And we still felt like it still needed some work. And then I was like, okay, cool. So I go to this tournament. What do I see getting played from locals in Kansas?
Yeah.
Leo. And I'm like,
because the Wind gets backed off the little bit.
Yeah.
In particular, the Wind gets backed off the table a little bit, which gives Leo a little more breathing, able to do what it wants to do.
Yeah.
And those things only got the table a little bit because 13 pushed to the front of the table a little bit. So
right.
I love it. I mean, there's like 4 different decks, any given, whether it's a cup or a store championship. I'm like, there are decks that I run day in and right now and constantly tweak a little, one card here and there, but these decks, and I could pick up one of them and feel comfortable going to it tomorrow.
Right.
Any single one. In years, it's been 1, maybe 2, where you play all these goofy things and fun stuff. If I had to go to a qualifier tomorrow, I'm taking one of these 2 decks. Yeah. Now I've got 5.
Yeah.
That feels great.
Yeah. It is a particularly good feeling. I do like once we pass over to like 4, right? Then it doesn't feel. I think something about 3 feels rock, paper, scissors, right? This deck beats this deck. This deck beats this deck. Because usually and that's still pretty healthy, frankly. But when we started getting to your point, like 4 and stuff like that, it's just like, wow, this is something. I think my gift and curse is being the kind of analyst player that can see how the meta is going to evolve, right?
Yeah.
Because I think that's an interesting thing for me as somebody who doesn't have a locals, right? So I'm based out of just north of Nashville. I'm technically in Kentucky, but I don't really have a place scene. The closest thing is to me is Cincy, which I love my boys in the Cincy crew. I'll talk more about them later, but they're like 3 hours north, so I'm not going to be hitting their weeklies and stuff like that. It's just a curse of distance. So for me, I am so like whenever I see people talking about data geeks, right? And we saw recently. Control Art QQ, I forget whatever. He just did like a whole article breaking down all the data from Kansas.
Right.
And I'm latching onto that because I'm like, yes, all right. Like, what predictions can we see? What decks do we expect to move forward? What expect to be popular? For me, Leo in specific, I think is such an interesting deck. And I'm like, is this going to be a one tournament wonder though? Do people immediately start to tech for it? Because I think with Wool and Leo decks in specific, I look at these 2. They're not necessarily the top ones, but ones that I think share a lot in their sense of greed, their silver spamming, their backups
Right.
being important. I think they share a lot of strengths in some degrees, and I think they share a lot of the same weaknesses, aka backup removal and things like that.
Right.
So for me, I'm like, when do people just start running 6 like Hakon Shears, Fenrir's, and then like Neo X deaths and stuff like that, and just start blasting our like stuff off the board?
Yeah, you have 13 to thank for that, right?
Yes,
like that's
exactly.
the preeminent reason, particularly like at the beginning of the season into Florida, why you were seeing 2 Shantotos in a deck rather than 1, 2 or 3 5-drop Hecatons. The Neo Eggs death. It was because, okay, how can my deck that I want to run deal with 13 as soon as I see Hope hit the board on their turn 1?
Yep.
Like, what is my out? What is my mulligan, assuming my opponent is on 13? And then like Leo gets fun for me because it's like I enjoy the deck, but it's not one that I would play.
It's a scary deck. Like
competitively.
You have to be brave or kind of dumb, and I'm on the kind of dumb territory on it.
I just find it so weird that you can get into a situation where your opponent is like, you know what? I don't even care if Thornton or Larsa draw you a card. I know this is going to break your deck.
Yeah.
Go ahead and take the free card.
Right. You're like, I would prefer you draw a card than whatever Leo does for you.
Right. Like back in the day, you played Thornton, you were like, that backup's going nowhere. My opponent is never going to give me that card. There's no way. And now it's just like, yeah, I'm going to Mandragora that. Go ahead, draw a card. I hope it's a good one for you because
my dream right now is to figure out a Soiree backup line, convince people I'm playing Soiree, they'll leave it alone, and then surprise Leo, right? Like,
oh no, that would be sick.
That's the brew scum I would like to put some time and energy into, and I think it's like a little bit there. 4-2-5 is there. Once you drop Larsa, they're gonna start asking questions though, like the
yeah. So once you hit Larsa, you've exposed the thing.
Yeah. That I got lucky with that in Florida because I was running a Soiree backup line for my Riku deck, and people were like, "Soiree, huh?" And I'm like, "Yeah,
buddy."
Right. And I'm like, I don't know if it really costs me much in that way. Like, I think I bluffed Kyle Peters for a while on it because I think he was thinking it like because he ran Megissa against me, and I think he was like, I don't know if I'm gonna run into EXs, and like he had lethal on board, and I was getting to the point where I'm like, Kyle, swing life away, buddy. Just you're good. You don't realize how good you are. But
you're fine. Monsters is another one. Like, when was the last time you ran a Monsters deck?
Tori Kelly, I haven't. So for the record, that one stayed under the radar for me for a while until I put out top decks. I didn't even see it or hear about it all day, which I thought was interesting about.
I think the last time I took a Monsters deck to anything competitive, it was like Ice Water Monsters.
Yeah.
After the Cloud of Darkness came out, the one where you choose one of your things to dull freeze it and get rid of a dull thing of theirs, and then when it swings, you dull freeze 2 things. That was like the last time I was like, yeah, monsters are viable, and then maybe a little bit in Rampare builds after that.
Sure.
But
give or take mono water as well, right?
Yeah, but for the draw mostly. Yeah, you're just like, I don't even care. It's a monster. Just give me a card.
Right.
But yeah, Tori is like that was awesome little deck there.
Yeah, I need to just have Tori. I need to reach out to Tori is what I need to. I need somebody who knows who's competent with that deck to just like play because I haven't got a chance to watch through all of the Kansas footage. Did we get that deck on stream?
We did not get Tori on stream.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
No,
I was like,
we did have we had on day 1 because it was a different commentary team on day 2. On day 1 from like the top cut, if I remember right, we had Patrick with the 13 deck was in round 3 and actually lost on stream.
Yeah.
To Neo Egg's death.
Yeah.
That was the nuttiest opening of a game in a long time.
Yeah.
We're sitting there commentating. We're like, yeah, I mean, if you have the Bahamut, you just nuke this thing and sack your backup and call it a day. You know, just and GG. You just lost to a 13 deck. And sure enough, he had the Bahamut. He did it, and G turned around and dropped an Opus 1 Titan on it. Wow. Okay. I guess 13 just lost.
I love it. You know what? Because there are cards that you're like jank, but in the right moments, clutch. Tight.
Yeah, like you're looking. You have you're Patrick, and you have that Bahamut, and you're like, they ditched 3 for Ned. They're holding 2 in hand. What could they possibly have that's going to stop this?
Right.
Oh, an Earth card and Titan. That sucks. Yeah. Now I have to sack a character for having the audacity to choose Neo Egg's death. Right. And when I go to end turn, I'm going to get to do it again.
Neo X Death is up there on cards, kind of with Leo on me, that it's like you brave or very, very
Yeah.
dumb soul, right? Like,
Yeah.
which just makes me want to put Neo into into a Leo list, hope to flip it and just be like, I'm doubling down on my either stupidity or madness if we can't
Right.
sure which.
Right.
But I want to talk about a little bit just a little bit about my experience for the day, because it wasn't a good day for me. But it had some fun stories, right? So overall with Materia Cups, Florida was
what were you on?
I was on I sold out. I was doing the wool deck too. And that's where I knew. I don't know what it is, man. I don't know what it is. I play my brews. Maybe I'm actually a good brewer. I play brews and I do pretty good in top. I play soiree that one time in like harder, better, faster, stronger, like LA tournament during before the official play came back. Top 8. But that, to be fair, soiree, anybody could top 8 with soiree objectively. My brews, I felt like I've been doing pretty good. And then I was like, let's play some like meta. I scouted it at TDK like on the stream, and I said that looks pretty good, not gonna lie. Which was a very common opinion, and I was sure that everybody else was gonna be on it, but I played it, liked it, I felt very good. The night before, I traveled with Cincy boys, Steve Sauce and Aaron Williams. The Sauce. We
did see Steve on stream.
Yeah, buddy, we saw Steve. He cost us some hours of sleep because we all were waiting on him to drive back to the home afterwards.
Yeah, the 13 deck went 50-50 on stream. We saw it twice. Steve won and Patrick lost.
Which just says Steve the best 13 player. I said it.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So total bias. Nothing against Patrick. I'm just totally biased for Steve. Let me commentate. I swear I will be the most biased person. If somebody I like goes on stream, I'm like, this guy sucks. I don't care.
So I did do that late in the day when Muhammad was on.
Yeah.
And Gabe and I were commentating, and I was like, well, you have to root for the other guy because I'm very openly going to root for Muhammad in this matchup.
Yeah. But then it's like, if it's your boy, right? Or then if they like make one mistake, you're like, Muhammad, you're better than that. What are you doing, Muhammad?
He messaged me the next day. He hadn't had a chance to watch the match yet.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, I know you were commentating. People said you did a great job. They want to see you more, but I apologize for any misplays. And I was like, dude, you came in third at the end of day 2. No misplays detected. It's just like, we are not going to talk. You came in third. You're fine.
Congrats to him, by the way, for his for its Nats spot. Obviously, congrats to everybody on their Nats qualifications. Matt Rice got his. Hell yeah, buddy.
Yeah.
Sam took it. Not super surprising for a lot of people who's been following tournament scenes. It's like Sam is one of those names of people you would think, yeah, they could win a tournament and you're not gonna be too gasped by it.
Yeah. I mean, congrats to him. A day 2 buy is a buy to day 2 is just tremendous, and I know that's what he was personally playing for, was what he really wanted. Congrats to him on that.
Yeah, my jealousy is oozing from me, especially from that tournament. So I'll say really quickly, I started my days, or I started my day. I paired up against Soiree. It was Eric Christensen from the Minnesota crew. For the record, lovely. I love the Minneapolis folks. Those guys, oh my gosh, I'm going to just put pictures of them and just talk about how much I like that whole crew in general. But Deshaun, Zahid, especially, those guys I've been bothering them in chats for like years and years and years now. I love them to death. But yeah, so I paired up against Eric and we went soirees and he got me to 6 pretty quick. I just could not get to 4 backups with it. Just, I don't know, wasn't happening for me. There was one turn where I'm on 6. He's got a whole wide board, and I Fusuya. It's like all soirees, like it's the whole squad. Madametal and then Lexa and Shinju are active. I Fusuya all the way across the triggers. I get Edel on top of his deck, and then the play, because I'm about to Heka on top of it, is to return Lexa back to hand.
Yeah.
But because day 1 or game 1 tournament nerves were kicking in, I looked at the Lexa and literally immediately forgot that the Lexa existed and was like, Shinju, of course. That's the most annoying one to like dispel right away.
Now you have to worry about colors.
Yes, exactly. Right. And I'm like, listen, maybe that's my own insecurities coming out about my deck the entire time, that I couldn't get color fixed just quick enough yet. And I was just like, maybe if I mess with your colors, though, maybe it'll all balance out.
I'm about to pull a play because I got to get 6 things off the board. But for some reason, my brain is thinking, maybe I'll screw with your colors.
My brain had 5 available good triggers on it. And I knew I had Heka at the bottom and then 4 Fusuya Shibuya triggers, and one just fell off the ridge, and it was like, let's pick Sinju, and then let's Heka, and then he was like, Lexa, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty good, bro. And I just flipped the top damage room, and I was like, I deserve that.
Yeah.
I mean, and granted, he plays one Meryl, he wins. He plays another Zidane, he just wins it. So he was very likely to win it anyway. But when you're starting your day on like a very clear mistake, you're just like, okay, I either get over that or it defines my whole day.
So let me ask you that then before we go into the other matches, because we've all been there, right?
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of gamesmanship that goes into this stuff anyway, you know, bluffing different moves, taking the right attitude to the game. You know, we always say play something you know versus something that is meta.
100%.
If the choice comes down to I'm going to play this meta deck I have no experience with, or something that may not be as strong, but I know inside and out, take the inside and out. You're going to do better. But when it comes to the day of, there's 116 people there. You've just sat down. You're 0-1, so now the pressure's on a little bit, right? If you win out, you're fine. But if you lose another one, that loss in round 1 that early hurts bad.
And you're
looking at it going, I may not have been in the best position, but I literally made a move that handed my opponent the game. How do you've got typically 10 to 20 minutes, depending on how long your game was, to rewire things and totally forget about it for game 2. Like a quarterback that just threw a pick, you got to go out and pretend it didn't happen.
Right.
How do you do it? How do you mentally do that?
I internally scream until my head would explode. And I usually say something along the lines of cool, 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 cool. I remind my opponent, assuming they're not, and 99% of us Final Fantasy community folks are fantastic. Yeah. You know, I only leave the room for one because every now and again you kind of get like a sour sport, maybe a new player, you know, kind of iffy at times. But largely we have done so good with this community on being like delightful games almost across the board.
Yeah.
So 99% of the time I'm like, you know what? I've played Magic. This is not, I'm defeated right now, but I want to let you know that was a great game. I enjoyed our time. This was this. And this is like the people person in me that's just like, bro, that was like, yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then we cut up for a little bit. But then I'm like, cool, I need to take my salt walk, which my salt walk is just like, I'm going to go, I need to take like 15,000 steps real quick before this next game because otherwise it's going to be in me. And then it's just like, I'll go. And then I'll usually go see how the boys are doing, you know, whatever crew I'm with that day. So with that day I was at Cincy and I was like, how everybody do? And they're like, yeah. And they're like, no. And I was like, okay, yeah, I didn't get it. I'm going to continue this walk real quick. And I just step, bro. I think that there's so much of it. I don't really want to talk about it. Although I usually do. So I break my rituals pretty often, but I think it's important for me just to be like, let's turn that into physical energy. Then if I'm this is me a little bit of my professional work and play. If you got energy to use, put it towards something. And if it's going to be like in your head, make it literal, talk it out. If you don't want to talk it out, go walk it out then. So those are my two big head things on like how I'm kind of navigating my head through like kind of a rough loss, especially one that you know that you earned that loss. Like you did that. It wasn't what your opponent did. It's not 13 turn 2 and you're like, I don't feel bad. That was going to happen either way, you know?
Right.
No, for those ones, I'm pretty hard on myself, but I'm just like, I've got to put my energy to something. Take it or leave it. Some people, I know everybody's kind of got their own little rituals. And I think that's like a whole fun, like discussion, I would have for like an interview show. It's just like, what's your guys' rituals? Like, how many times do you shuffle beforehand? Do you walk? I don't know, Mike, when you're on your end, right? When you do you take a salt walk or is it like,
I chain smoke. That's what I, which I don't recommend, by the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's absolutely a salt walk. You know, it's like you said, it's polite to the opponent. They didn't do anything wrong. I literally had to take it. I was in Erie at a store championship and I'm 3-0 after 3 and I'm like, and it's 6 rounds and I'm like, sweet, right? Yeah. If I win this next one, I can check out.
You can coast.
I can check out of games 5 and 6. It doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. And I had already beaten a 13 deck in round 1. In round 4, my opponent clearly on a 13 deck. I know how to play the matchup. You know, I know how to get into my outs right away and not have to fish and hope for them. Like, we are going to be fine. Be a little careful. Don't get surprise hasted or anything and just do your thing. You know this matchup.
Right.
And sure enough, it comes at me, puts me on 4 quick. I stabilize, I start destroying the hand size and the resources, and I start chipping back into the game, and I'm like, we're good. And I have this thing basically on lockdown, and I misplayed so hard, Dylan.
Mm.
I punted this thing, asked for the ball back, and punted it again.
Confess your sins, my child.
That is,
What did you do?
he played the Y'shtola, the Fire Lightning
Yeah.
Y'shtola. I had swung in with some things. I left a Lark up just as a blocker.
Yeah.
And I forget the sequence of events, but it's like he's swinging into me, and I'm like, I don't know why you're swinging into me. The most you can put me on is 6, and the act of you swinging into me guarantees I win.
Right.
Like maybe you're just going for tiebreakers because you realize the board state at this point. I'm going to block with this Lark where you're going to pass because you have nothing left, and I'm going to swing twice and win. Instead, I decided to get cute for some stupid reason. Y'shtola damaged me, hit Lark for 4. I cactuared, but paid with 2 colors needlessly to stop the lightning from swinging, which I should have just let it swing. And in my brain, like you said, you targeted in your brain Lexa and then immediately forgot it. In my brain, I'm like, yeah, just block lightning whenever she swings. Who cares? He's going to draw 1 card on an empty hand with no backups. Fantastic. Let him do it. No, I cactuared, only pay with 2 colors, put myself on 6, which triggered Y'shtola to kill my Lark. And now I have no blocker for lightning.
Yeah.
And I look, as soon as I did it, I went, that was really dumb. And my opponent said, no takesy backsies. And I was like, I didn't ask for any.
Yeah.
But that's one of those, I literally got up and I was like, hey, good match. You know, that's unfortunate. Right. You were dead next turn. He was like, I know. And I was like, I'm going to go smoke.
Right. See, and that's the thing, right? Talking about like why you always got to play it out. I think that some people, they'll get defeated and they're like, yeah, this person's they're just going to beat me. I am a sucker hoping that if I'm going to rate myself as like even kind of good as a player, and I'm being humble, I think I put a lot of work into being as good as I think I am, despite where my results land on the tournament on any given day. But, you know, like I could know a match 1,001% of the way through and still make a mistake on tournament day. So it's exactly that reason that it's just like, no, I'm always going to play this out because I hope to God, for whatever reason, I'm making you nervous about something and you're just going to like, Lexa, Shinju though. And then
you'd be amazed what 2 cards in your hand and 1 up backup can do to somebody on the other side of the table. Just like cards they would never think of being in your deck all of a sudden are running through their brain.
They're like, I don't know how you're going to Amaterasu me on mono water, but I'm just going to pass to be safe. And you're just like, right? Like, which the trick is class 4th Moogle for those wondering. But
yes, exactly. Yeah. That's how.
A very popular backup as of late. But yeah. So speaking of on good players doing poorly, which is a better name for this podcast episode for me than whatever I call this. Yeah, so the next couple of matches, I think I just roll through losses. I think I started to record them and write them down, and then I kind of was just like, why am I writing these down? I know it's content later, but it hurts.
Yeah, I don't want to remember these.
Yes, I'm wanting to forget this. The TLDR, I remember round 2, I played a 13 player, and they 13'd me. You know, they Morbin timed, if you will. It was Morbius all over again. So I was like, all right, that sucks that you're my second loss in a row. But yeah, okay. All right, maybe I just went out. Dude, just be good. Just went out from now on, right? Maybe I have good breakers. Eric went on to 2 top cut. So like, all right, I had 1 good breaker objectively.
Yeah.
I play and win 1 match, but it just felt like it was one of those days where it was like me or my opponent was just totally bricked, right? Like,
where you don't feel like you're winning, you feel like their deck beat them.
Yeah, like they're losing, and I know. I mean, the player I played against round 4 was 13 again. I played into 5. I played into 5 and I lost, and then I dropped after 5th. Yeah, so lost to 13, lost to Soiree. Won. I don't remember the game I won because it was literally just like my stuff went off. You aren't even getting to do what you're wanting to do.
Right.
And then round 4, I played somebody's like homebrew Wind Lightning deck, and they dropped Yuffie round 1. And for those who, for whatever reason, are dedicated fans of my ramblings about this, my scariest game from Florida, a mono Wind player, I think it was mono Wind anyway, was like my very first game in Florida. They saw Soiree backups. I went first, and they were like, cool, well, I better drop Yuffie then. pitched a couple of backups, played Yuffie, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of a win player in the skies, and I know you probably shouldn't be pitching backups, but the Yuffie is right. And that Yuffie for my Riku deck, which I didn't run Cactar, and I was just like, yeah, just don't run the Yuffie, that easy. Took me to 6.
Yeah.
Like it was.
I remember testing for Florida, and my read on the meta was, we had just had those Japanese results, right?
Yes.
There was like 45 people, and like 13 or 14 of them were Cat 13s.
Yeah.
And so there was a read that was probably going to be stronger in the room, which would probably back off wind and wind ice storms in particular for a little bit. Maybe let's go with a little control. And then it came down to either earth ice or ice lightning for me to take the Florida. I ended up going with earth ice. And so I made that decision like 2 weeks prior to the event.
Right.
And then just started burning games, as many as I could at locals, on Octagon, like with my son who competitively plays as well, and my other kids who casually play. Like, just pick a deck. I don't care what it is. Just run it.
Make a random deck, because that's more than likely what I bump into that day.
Right. And I'll tell you what, the one of 4-drop Cactuar that I ended up nuking myself with later in Erie, the only reason that one of was in the deck was Yuffie.
Yeah.
That's it. I had run into it in so many times on Octagon, and I was 50-50. Like, it was a coin toss whether I had the ability to dull freeze it and then just keep it down, or it ran over me. And I was like, yeah. And by the way, Cactuar had the beneficial side effect why I went that route of, I hate you leaving me on 2 damage. I need to be on 3.
Yes.
Or I hate you leaving me at 4 damage. I need to be on 5.
Yeah.
So I'll put a Cactuar in there. But Yuffie was the sole reason for that one of like 4 days before the cop. I was like, I've got to tech this in.
It literally just has Yuffie's name on it. Like Yuffie with like a target on its head and then needles like as darts impaling the whole thing. That is a anti-Yuffie card in that one. But yeah, in similar fashion with this one, they played Yuffie. I just, for whatever reason, could not get past 3 backups. Like, I got to 3 and I was just like, cool. I'm like Fasuyaing to stay alive. But it's like, I think that, back in Hearthstone, whenever I played that, I forget what player had said it, but I really have adopted this as like card game persona thinking, is that you should be always playing to win, not necessarily playing to survive. Right now, that can vary depending on what deck you're running. If you're running something TE control-y at times, sometimes like surviving is just winning, right? But I think in a lot of decks that I like to play, which I like control, but I typically gravitate towards what I would call like greedy mid-range. It's just like mid-range with like too much dumb stuff in it. And for me, it's always this game of like, all right, I'm just playing to survive at this point, and I just am mentally defeated. Doesn't matter if I'm like winning in board state. I'm just like, no, but I'm not killing you right now, and that is bothering me. Like, so I think for me, it was just like I was so mentally checked out at that point, and then I was just waiting for a Yuffie special. I finally did go wide, and it was like, it was Wolf, Asuya, and I don't know, pick a freaking forward from that deck. Who cares? Pour him. And literally, it was just like, when are you going to Yuffie special me, bro? I'm on 6. I've got like these things just lined up. I'm still empty. I haven't seen Une or anything. I'm like, just kill me. Like, I'm just so mad that you. And then like the last turn, he's like, finally a Yuffie. And I was just like, dude, thank you. Like, I was just so ready to drop at that point.
Right.
I was just like, cool. Good game. I was like, nothing against you. I'm just hella salty. Like, I just drove 9 hours to drop. So that just sucks. Yeah, but I think the other part of it is if anybody, considers me even like a decent player, right? I think it's so important for good players to be transparent about their losses. Because I think far too often, if this is your first trading card scene or first really competitive scene of much of anything, right? I think that, as a player who I think only within the last year or so is probably really considering worth my salt and like investing into this game in the way that I have, I feel like you'll see like some big name players like Oki, Sam Prime, you'll see people who are continually winning tournaments and stuff like that. And you just kind of take for granted that they would never make a top cut, right? Yeah. But then, like, I mean, in Kansas, not to throw Ryan Chen under the bus, sorry, Ryan, but like Ryan didn't make top cut. I think KP didn't make top cut.
And that's a literal world's level player right there. Like,
exactly. So we're talking about world's level players who are just not making it. And I feel like it's just like we get so used to seeing them in top cut that it's interesting. And this is no disrespect to them at all. If anything, this is absolutely respect to say, like, as I was looking through a top cut list, I was like, dude, so many good players didn't like make it out of Kansas. I was like, Kansas has just had that energy. And for me, it was a thing where I was like, no, I think I would love to hear them just be like, yeah, that sucks. I know nobody wants to talk about their losses, but I think it's like humanizing to some folk who maybe aren't like talking with them, or if you're a somewhat newer player, or if you don't have a scene that helps you just kind of like talk with people. I don't know when to shut up, which is why I started doing the podcasting. And so for me, I've like organically started talking to these folks and things like that. And it's like, it's kind of relieving to be like, bro, you bleed too. Okay. Like,
right.
That's, except for Oki, that son of a bitch doesn't bleed. He takes breaks and judges at tournaments or something. So
right.
I love Matt, by the way. And he knows that. But
oh, he's tremendous.
He's
one of the nicest guys too.
He is.
Like there hasn't been a single time in my FFTCG life that I had the chance to Oki. He was very gracious with time, questions and stuff like that. Like, don't ask what he's taken to the next tournament, but if you what he just ran, I'm willing to help you out.
Yeah. Oh, he'll tell you all day long about what he just beat you up with.
Right?
Like, sir.
Can I ask about your deck?
Yeah, right.
Would it be a question about your deck?
Yeah, sure. Hold on. Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit here.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Okay, and then I think we just have to be quiet sometimes. Sometimes I think StreamYard gets mad that we're talking too much.
Ah.
Okay.
So
okay, go ahead. Shoot it.
In your build,
yes,
ran 3 of the X-Burst Porum.
Yes.
But you did not run any of the take abilities away from, which I think would have been like great for those and things like that. Even if Yuffie pegs you once, you could play it next turn. Right. What was the rationale there? Because usually you see at one of that legendary takes abilities away, but you are more on the summon side of.
Yeah, I think like the easy answer was I was being a worse thinker because it wasn't my deck, right? So here's a perfect example of a good player that net decks, right? So I said I largely took liberties from TDK. When I say largely take liberties, about 48, about 50 cards probably. Of Buckley
to the tune of like 90%.
Just a little bit, and whatever. Anybody who comes in here is going to give me shit. I'm like, I saw how many other of those decks were there. And then I was just like, whenever people started putting Galoof out there, I was just like, fuck, that's really good. I wish I had that in my deck. So
yeah, he was in my Earth Ice going to Florida.
Yeah. So my thinking was that it was like, okay, I know the kind of players McGinty and Buckley are, and they seem to have been very confident on this. I, in theory, was 100% with everybody else. I was like, yeah, 2CP Porum is in a fantastic spot in this meta. It's really good as anti-aggro tools. It's always got targets. That thing is just always super good. So like part of me was like, I kind of want to. Then the other part of it was just like, I don't know. Like I kind of like ramping Rydia. I kind of like getting rid of it to be able to replay it. Like it just, when Une wasn't getting its loops off, it just kind of felt a little bit good on that. So I was like, okay, maybe this is better. And my mindset there was just like, let's not tinker with somebody else's shit, right? Like, yeah. So I kind of got a little gun shy on it, which is probably why I probably do better with my brews. Because when I build a deck, I'm like, you're fucking stupid. This is done. Throw this out. And it seems great in the moment and great.
You've cost me a game. Get out.
Yes, exactly. All it takes is like, I lost too badly that game. I wanted to lose a little less badly. You're gone. So I ended up going on that one, but it is absolutely the right call to be on Legend Porum versus that one. And I think a 2-1 split is probably still fair. EX is nice. You don't really need 3 of those Porums specifically. Like the consistency isn't super needed. It's just like the Japanese rule that I keep hearing, right, is like if you want to see it multiple times, you run 3. If you want to see it at least once, you run 2. If you don't really want to see it at all, you run 1 of. Yeah. And like I'm starting to subscribe to that. Because there's far too often I'm running these one card that I'm like, this is going to get me out of jail on the perfect situation. And
yeah, but that's the benefit of Sildra, right? Because any water card, any water character, you're just kind of like, I can get away with 1 of, and I'll come get you when the matchup says I need you. Exactly. And if I don't, I'm gonna get your friend instead. Right.
So if you don't have the benefit of Sildra and all hail its Banhammer glory that everybody's chiming for, unironically, I think it's kind of just fine. Like, I get people's arguments, and I'm not saying that's wrong. It's powerful as hell. But I think the decks that it enables at times are super cool. We have a 4-color backup deck that's, like, not only viable, objectively the best in the format at the moment.
Yeah, I think it limits design space too much, though, which means I think at some point it does get banned.
So, but I think I've always had the argument with balance and stuff is, all right, not so much always just power creep, but like share the tools then, right? If water gets a Sildra, then why not just make like a don't do it to Earth, but
So
like do
that
it to Wind or something, right?
Oh, that's a good thing. Good point. Travis Pfeiffer and I were having this conversation literally, I think, like 48 hours ago, where it's which side of the fence do you subscribe to?
Yeah.
Do you subscribe to, okay, if something is broken, give everything that broken capability, or peel things back?
I know Travis is largely we'll call him a conservative, and
he's a 100 pull it back.
He would revert it back to the Opus 2 days or whatever.
Yeah.
He would openly say as much too.
And I think my answer to him was something like, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't think that just because Wind does Wind things as well as Wind things do, to the point that, like, I think Evray in particular and some other cards literally break the deck,
right,
and make it start behaving in ways that the game wasn't designed. Althea arguably does the same thing. I know Chris Matiski did a whole video where he said it. This plays outside. This plays outside the game space.
Right. It's like it breaks the rules of cards that got invented in the first place.
Right. Yeah. And I said, I'm not in favor of breaking everything just so everything is broken equitably. But I also don't want to go back to what the game was in Opus 5.
Right.
Opus 7, right around there. Just for the sake of keeping everything not broken. I'm kind of in the middle where,
Yeah, because I think for me, like we talk about, and I know Travis has largely said on record before that it's the speed of the game that really bothers him right now, right?
Yeah.
Things are a little too efficient, effectively speaking, right? The everything, you can be online with Leo in turn 3. I have the science to prove it. You got to wait till turn 4 to probably play it, unless you go to turn 2nd, then maybe you get lucky. But for the most part, like turn 3, turn 4, you're online with like 1 through 6 backups, right? Yeah. Largely that's enabled by Sildra, but frankly, Leo is such a fun card. I think that like you need something to make that be viable in the first place.
Yeah.
Now,
arguably without Sildra, the deck can't function in a competitive matter right now.
Way too slow. You're hoping to draw all these cards in the right order at the right time. So that's like a turn. I can tell you, like before we really started putting Sildra into everything, like it's hot sauce or something on food, is that like, Leo is like a turn 6.
Sildra, I put that shit on everything.
Yes. A 6, 7, 8, or turn 6, 7, 8 turn, like on your good days, right? Like 7 is probably, but like 6, and by 6 most of the time, it's like, who wants to be playing this game by 6? I either want to know I've won as a control player, or know I've killed you as an aggro player. And if you're mid-range, kind of like me, you're kind of like, I still want to know I'm winning, like,
right.
Yeah, I don't want to start playing the game by turn 6, 7, or 8. So, but I think that for me comes back to like, I think that interesting good effects are typically broken by nature, right? Like the way you power scale, power creep, whatever you kind of want to really get into it, is by making cards do cooler things, typically speaking, right? One of my favorite mechanics from Magic from my time with that was Cascade, and we've got that in a couple of cards here and there, right? We've got Agrius, the old Opus Legend one that would pull 3 or 3 or less forward. And I really liked that card whenever that came out. Kieran, to a certain degree, does that. Leo, to a certain degree, is a pseudo cascade of sorts, right?
Right.
And, I think that my simple rule is that I think things are just cooler when it's all broken. And again, I don't hate people for saying that they want to throw us back to the Stone Age or anything else. I think it's everybody's personal preference of what they want for this game. But for me, I'm just like, listen, if you ever played a Leo Scion deck, right? And not just like Leo Thancred, because he's kind of like built in now. It's kind of like a staple card for the current builds. But if you go Leo Thancred grabs back, let's say Alphino. Alphino reses Alisei grabs 2 forwards, and then you can sit there and play Ishtola, and you've played 5 forwards and done these things. Listen, the dopamine you get from that is better than anything you will ever get in trading cards. So for me, I'm like, no, I want, if everybody could have one of these, we're all just vibing, right? We're all just in the good stuff. But when you turn it down so much, for me, it's just like, okay, cool. But frankly, Sildra's broken as hell, and the meta is objectively the healthiest it's been in the game before. So this is where, for me, I can see the arguments, but I'm like, no, you know what? If Sildra's broken, print one for Wind. You know what? Let Wind thrive again. Wind is... Us poor Wind players, we just can't win as soon as these organized play comes on board. We've been starving, even though we've been screwing everybody.
Hey, Wind Ice took the store championship in Erie.
It did.
Or not Erie, Ottawa last weekend.
Yeah. Tony Jin.
Tony. I lost to Tony in Swiss.
Yeah.
He was my loss. and then he decked out. I wanted him. He was 4-0 and it was 5-round tournament. He was in the soiree matchup, and he decked out. And I was like, son of a, I needed you to win because if I make the top cut, I don't want to play you again. I was on Earth Ice. It's an unwinnable matchup. Like, I just,
that's a miserable match when you're.
Yeah, it's like, well, unless I Weiss an Orphan on turn 1 and just start swinging at you and taking a card and a Dull Freeze every time, I can't realistically win this matchup. So yeah, he lost, and I had to play him in top 8, and I got bounced. First game was really good, and second game was good too. Like, I played well, but it was just an unwinnable matchup. But it was kind of nice to see Wind Ice take one.
Yeah, I mean, it's overdue since organized play start. I mean, think of it like this: if we're gonna be sympathetic to Wind players, like I'm 50-50 into the toe, but then I keep running Rikus and Leos, and they're like, maybe you're just an Earth Water player, and I'm like, maybe, I don't know. But with Wind players, you're for the past 2 or 3 opuses objectively, you've been a top deck. You've been,
I mean, and by far,
you're just stopping. Organized play gets announced. Finally, your games can really super duper matter if you're like a sweaty like us. You're wanting to get out there, you want to travel.
Yep.
Tournament starts. They print 13 right before, and now your Wind deck is getting swallowed in pools, and most people don't even want to run it, right? Like I think overall for the past couple of cups, I've personally seen maybe less than a handful of pure Wind players, Wind Ice, and even Wind Lightning to degrees, right?
Yeah.
They've all been kind of in the dumpsters or something like that. They just aren't performing. And you're a Wind player, and you've been king of the castle for 3 opuses, and then now you can't even get a qualifying spot. How frustrating that has to be. Like,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I said at the beginning, right? Like, there's a 2 or 3 deck types that you're like, you probably don't feel that the meta is healthy right now.
Yeah.
Simply because you have not just been bumped down a peg or 2. You have been almost made to the point of you can't be competitive, reasonably expect to be competitive.
Right.
Because you are going to run into at least 2 decks that can now consistently beat you. And one that unless you top deck Typhon and then get some more luck, you cannot win. You just cannot.
You turn 1 Yuffie, the rest of your hands also Yuffie. Like you run 15 Yuffie, that's how you play against 13, and that's like otherwise you just hard lose, right? Like
what's your tech for 13? Oh, 38 Yuffie. Just 38.
You know how we've gotten with Lightning where you can make a whole deck out of just Lightning cards? Like that's gonna be Wind players in the future. It's just like, check them out my mono Yuffie deck, and it's just
mono Yuffie for the win.
Waiting for it, man. That's the dream. Talking a little bit more about the tournament, not necessarily my experience anymore, because I drop about 4 rounds in. I'm salty. My buddy Aaron gets so close. He's running Kingsglaive. He's this one madman Kingsglaive in the statistics. If you go check the recent article that was done with that one. And for the record, I thought that Kingsglaive, unironically, is actually really well positioned in this meta. We were talking through that, and I was like, unironically, I think it's like good shit. And we play test through. He does great the night before. I do fantastic. I don't drop a game, like literally against matches against them all night long, even against 13. And then I get rolled day of. Love that. But
yeah, that's rough.
Right, I know. I used up all my luck in testing the night before. That was my mistake, right? So
you're like, I'm 40-0. Let's do this,
dude. I'm telling you, like, I could just be like, I'm gonna pitch these 2. I'm just gonna my 4 backups. I'll pitch Wool and Fusuya to play this Sarah. Who gives a shit? I'm just gonna draw Wool and Fusuya next turn.
You know what? Turn 1, Cecil Galliff. Let's just see what happens, bro.
And then I just would. I would just draw. Just a magic. I just outed every time, right? No questions asked. So I was like, yeah, I've got this. I'm gonna win the tournament tomorrow. Easy.
I actually got pushed playing in a similar deck to Sam Prime's a couple of weeks ago, and I had to turn 1 Cecil into Galliff. It was the only play I had, and I was amazed by how freaking strong that opening was.
Unironically, dude, you're like,
I was like,
Galliff with protection?
I am just destroying you, and I haven't played anything else.
Yeah, man. So with all of the good stuff kind of going on about the tournaments and stuff, I have a couple gripes, and this isn't specifically to Kansas. Let me start by saying Kansas as a venue was like great. That shop is huge. Everybody
Collectors Cash did an amazing job.
Such a
Amazing
great
job.
job. Yeah. Judges were great across the board. Oki, he did good until he didn't. I'm just picking on Oki now. No, Chris Lopez was a judge, so I couldn't get my run back match from him from Florida because he knocked me out of top 16. So I literally go to Chris Lopez's actual house in Kansas, not literally, but figuratively in Collector's Cash. And then he judges. And I'm like, bro, I came back to play you in specific, and you're a judge? I was so salty. So we go through the whole tournament. Everything is smooth sailing. Stream is great. Great commentary. Wonderful things across the board. But here are two big thorns in my side that I feel like we're not doing enough. One is like we should be doing across the whole board. But two, I just feel like we haven't had enough discussion. The first one, tournament brackets. So when we get in the top cut, usually a bracket exists somewhere for somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't advertise it. And I'm very confused as to why. It's not like we see it in the Facebook groups. We don't have a continuing live like bracket feed as it's going along and stuff like that. Unless there is, I'm just missing it. But I swear I'm on everything.
Yeah. So I didn't do the day 2 commentary, so I don't know how they had it behind the scenes.
I know they had clipboards. I know Chris and Matt.
Yeah, they had clipboards. And when I was at the Florida Cup, Chris, he had the bracket there. Yeah. And I know he flashed it on stream in between the feature matches. Right. But I think that was like the best that viewers got was a flash of it under the camera in between.
And if you missed
matches.
it or something like that, then like good luck.
Yeah.
I know for me, the player the night before, we were sitting there and Steve had gotten top cut. So in Kansas, we're sitting there, we're like, okay, how do brackets work? And I remember in Florida, I got top cut, but it's the first time I'd gotten top cut in organized play match. Obviously, it was the first tournament of the year, effectively. And I was like, who am I playing? Like, and I was literally messaging people. I'm like, how do brackets work in Final Fantasy? Because I'm like, Final Fantasy always does stuff a little weird. I come from fighting games originally, and it's very clear cut. 116, 215, you work your way down and you work your way to the middle, which is, I guess, objectively how it works. Yeah. But then somebody was saying that it was like, well, sometimes it works in quadrants. And I'm like, quadrants? Why would it? Like, so I couldn't get a clear cut answer. Shane was in the same boat. Shane messaged me and he's like, do you have the bracket? And I'm like, I have no idea. Also, why don't we do brackets a little bit more openly? So yeah, that's like a strange point of reference. I would love to see like. It's a very simple addition. Like, it's just like, hey, here's the, like, I don't know, here's live, like the, any bracket site. You could just be like, here's our live updated bracket right now. You can go check it out now.
Yeah, that's, that would be pretty dope, actually.
Yeah. It's the minor, and I know it's like not that big of a deal, but it's a little small thing that can just make a big difference because it's like the night before, and we usually get deck lists with both Materia Cups we've gotten. If you got top cut, they'll put your deck list out the night before. Great. But I'm like, I don't know who I'm playing. I had no idea who I get to be testing. I'm like, I had to ask 6 different people, and they were all unsure. And then we kind of figured it out. I'm like, okay, I'm playing Lopez. And I was like, oh, fucking, I'm dead. So, not just because Lopez is good, but because Ice Lightning just was beating up on my deck. I was like, ugh, that's a bad match. Okay.
Lopez in Florida played that tremendously well.
Yeah, no,
it's one of my favorite decks. Is my pet deck is Ice Lightning, and
the Metal Scene and the Lady Lilith stuff.
Oh yeah, that's just such a tremendous combo.
Yeah. So tournament brackets. If you're running a Materia Cup, and for whatever reason watching this stream,
show us the trees, baby.
Bro, give me the seeds, give me the spots. I want to see these things fighting, right? I want to see these things get smaller until we get to the point. The other thing, and maybe you're more insightful on this, I still am unclueless. 2 Materia Cups in with San Diego literally this weekend, how the Nat spots are dropping from top cuts. So I've had it loosely explained to me.
Yeah.
And it makes less sense the more I think about it, honestly.
So from what I understand, and this is by no means official or anything.
Right.
I'm not a Square Enix employee.
Yes. Disclaimer, we are not Square Enix
Disclaimer, we don't work for SE.
Right.
One of the weird, and I've always thought this was weird too. When I was at the Erie Store Championship, I was watching the top 8 because a friend of mine had made it. And I'm watching one of the other matches, and it's best of 3, and they finished their first match. And one of the players says to the other one, okay, we need to record damage. And the player says, no, it doesn't matter. We just need to know who won the best of 3. Mm-hmm. And I stopped them. I was not an official judge, but I said, actually, you have to wait. Hold on. Mm-hmm. And I called the judge over to verify, because in my brain, you still needed the damage the way the software works. Right. And I was correct. Mm-hmm. The judge said, no, you do need it. I'm not sure why, but you need it. And so when I pulled the judge over, after that, I said, you need it because Final Fantasy tournaments offer a roll down if somebody has the invite, but there is no third against fourth.
Right.
Just first and second play. Whoever's in third and fourth, they don't play each other to see who is third and who's fourth. Their tiebreakers decide.
Yeah.
So you do need those tiebreakers because if I come in third, I could potentially get a roll down. He says, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." So yeah, the roll downs for materia cups,
and
are really freaking weird though, because the first place player, even if they've already qualified, they want the bye. Like it gets really weird.
Right. And I remember in Florida, that was something that I was talking with Kelly Thatcher about for a minute because
because there was a roll down there.
Yeah, there was one, maybe even 2 roll downs. I think Kelly said, I think if I recall correctly, Kelly was telling me, and I, again, grain of salt, Kelly Thatcher, I love him, but who fucking knows if he's right or wrong. He tends to be somewhat right about this because he talks to people who are smarter than both of us. But Kelly was saying that effectively how it worked out was that he's like, I think he said if he hadn't won, that I could have qualified. And I'm like, how do I qualify if I lose my first match in top 16? And he's like, so allegedly, grain of salt, I don't know. There is somebody should just print an article out so somebody can answer this question for us about this. But effectively, there was something to do with like standings on day 1, right? That translated into the day 2 stuff, right?
Right.
So allegedly, I finished I think like 11th or 10th on day 1. I kind of forget. We'll say 11th, and then you have all the people who have already qualified. And of course, in Florida, like 6 of the 16 were already qualified, or 5 of the 16 were already qualified. So now there's all these weird ways for these to drop.
Yeah, because you had what, Joe, you had Chris Lopez,
you had Joe Lopez,
Prime, Rupert, Okimoto, and Peters. They all were given the invites from the previous competitive season.
Right off the cuff, right? So you already had like the top 16 already stacked of invites that were getting trickled down.
Yeah.
And I played Lopez, who I guess went on to carry on. And I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But at one point, Kelly had said that I was like, well, okay, so why wouldn't Chris Neal just get the immediate one? Because he was first at the end of day 1. And he's like, because he lost. And I was like, I lost. I was in 11th. So I don't know how that makes any sense. Right. And I don't know if it was because so I think the way Kelly described it was because that Chris Neal lost to Kelly, who continued on into the tournament, and he ended up getting his spot. That like he got knocked out by somebody who wasn't qualified, so he objectively was going to get claimed to that spot, right? Based on ranking. But so once one top seed was out, then like it was just going to keep on dropping to like the next highest seed. That was like, it makes sense, I guess. I don't know. But the more I talk it through, the less sense I make.
Yeah, the less sense it starts to make. I don't know. I'd be really interested in seeing that.
Knowing Square Enix is exactly how it works. So based on their software programs.
Yeah, because all they've publicly said, right, was on the page that was like, hey, these are the cats who have automatic Nats invites because of our canceled competitive season, the year of COVID. You're automatically invited. If you happen to win a Materia Cup, you'll get the bye to day 2, but your invite will roll.
Yeah.
And store championships too. Like if they top 2 with those, their invites will roll. But like they did not detail how that rolls at all.
No,
you're right.
How the seeding or the invites drop in these complicated situations. Because again, it's only going to get more complicated the later the tournaments go on. We have more people.
Yeah, I mean, presumably you would have more and more roll downs as the season goes on if people keep competing and winning.
There's a realistic scenario, top 16, every 16, like 1 through 16 is qualified. Then it's like, well, how the hell do these 4 drop? Do we just go 17 through 21, 17 through 20 through day 1 Swiss rankings then? And I couldn't tell you.
Oh, I mean, I'm going to start putting my name in the hat.
I know, right? Like,
you weren't there, so I'm the next seed.
Yeah, nobody knows. If you weren't top cut, what did it matter? You were either top cut or you weren't.
Prove that I'm not the next seed.
Exactly. The proof of burden is on you, sir, based on this system. That
I'll see you in LA.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm probably just gonna get around to posting it on NA, and then somebody will talk to somebody, and somebody will make comments, and then somebody will make several guesses, and then somebody will come in with the right answer about 20 minutes later, as it usually does.
Probably.
So hopefully somebody smarter than all of us comes in and is just like, let me clarify. This is how it works. And I'm like, okay. And then I'll be like, but can you clarify a little more? Because I'm still confused why we chose this system to begin with, right? to a degree, I think like day one seedings would make sense, right? If you were day one and you were 1-0 and it's like you lost, but like everybody loses and it all drops into this weird like void, I think like, sure, that's what you should be a reward for going undefeated or something into it.
Right.
I was 11th, so I was like, why in God's name would I get the drop down unless it was like, all right,
unless there were like 9 people up there.
Yeah, right. It didn't make sense to me, but Kelly seemed certain, and every time he's been certain about something, I've qualified in Top Gun. So I don't know. Maybe Kelly's just the problem. I couldn't tell you. Peep the judges. Maybe they know. Yeah, I know, right? I need to. You know what? You know what I'm gonna do right now? I'm gonna DM David Nunes at this exact moment because he just is a man who knows everything. And I'm gonna be like, hey, I know you're probably really busy doing everything with this tournament that you're literally going to be starting and getting into this weekend. But
that starts in 36 hours. But stop what you are doing. We have an important question.
Real quick.
How does this actually roll down?
For whatever reason, do you know how the invite?
Don't ask me why I'm asking. Just answer.
Fall down and top cut. Yeah, I just texted him because David Nunes is one of the both nicest and most insightful people that knows everything about everything.
100%. And
if he doesn't know, he knows who does know. So that's, that's why you have the homies. California family for life. Yeah, so I mean, I think those two things I would have loved clarified before the tournament season even started. Now that we're like, for the record, side note, I'm loving this opus, but and this season, but this feels like the longest opus in the world. Is it just me?
No.
I feel like I've been playing this opus for 20 years now.
I feel like it too. But that's I think a lot of that has to do with what we were talking about earlier, right? There are more decks that you are messing with right now because of their remote chance of viability than you have in previous sets. So you have messed with more cards in this set than you have previous sets.
Yeah.
And
I've gone back to old cards that I've never thought about before.
And you are playing a lot more because there's a competitive season to practice for.
Yes. Oh my God. Painfully so. You know how hard it is to grind without a scene? I have to be Mr. Worldwide and reach out to people everywhere. And then I'm just like going on FF decks, having 2 different Blaya deck windows. And I'm like, okay, I can double the grind by playing both decks. Like, that's the insanity. He says, I'm going to ask Jason Toro. Let's see what he said. Hell yeah, Jason Toro might know it also.
Yeah, Jason probably would too.
Also tell Jason I say hi. I love Jason.
Jason's the man.
He's such a sweetie. I love him.
I mean, we gave Collector's Cash credit. Jason and Chris in Florida and Lockwood, they did tremendous
Jason and Chris were amazing. Lockwood did my favorite thing a tournament runner has ever done, which is give top cut cash pricing. Speaking about things I would love to see more. Tiny gripes. Not everything's perfect. We always have room for improvement. Cash payouts and FFTCG. Warms my heart. He was like, yeah, you get like $50 for getting top cut. And I was like, what? I'm doing drugs tonight. Let's go. I can afford it this time.
You were like, buy one, get one at Applebee's. Let's go.
Bro, Applebee's was getting wild in Florida.
Yeah, it was. Chris Adams was such a trooper, man. In between every damn round, he was over there.
Yeah, Adams was there every single round. Irving, whenever I saw him, Irving was 3 LITs deep before round 4 or something.
He was in my draft pod, and he was like, Byrne. I said, what? And he said, when we go 0-1, the train's leaving. Let's go.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. Not a problem. Let's do it.
Dude, Irving's ridiculous. I do enjoy that.
That's my boy. I love that guy. I absolutely love that guy.
I guess a little bit of wind down manner. We didn't talk about a hard out on this, so we're just going to do it on stream. We'll probably clock in about 27 minutes. I think hour and a half of content is just right. Moogle Man pops in. I'm pretty sure it's based on the final standings. At least that's how it was done at Crystal Cups in previous competitive seasons.
Yeah, that's how it was done in Crystal Cups. Yes.
Right.
But I don't think it actually has worked that way.
No, I've definitely got the impression.
And I'm not sure why.
No,
but we'll
because it's. I'm not going to put this on our community manager, whoever that's supposed to be now, because I know RB is now riffing out of that and going to Lorcana Disney money, baby, but which is the right move for her. I don't blame her. But
100%.
Yeah, I know that, and it's not a community manager thing. This is a Square Enix doing Square things, but it's like, I mean, you look at their program and you're kind of like, why are you the way that you are? And then now it's like the seeding thing is like, I don't know, let's just make it up entirely differently for like this year. And I'm like, Kageyama, can somebody get Kageyama on the line for me, please? It's just like, I really enjoy this man, but it's also, and how many emperors are we going to print? How many emperors, buddy? Like
a few more. A few more.
At least 3 this set.
Like just this set.
Effectively. Yeah, I just have so many more questions and answers on this stuff. It's just like in my competitive brain, of course, anytime I talk to any like competitive people who just don't know, they're like, I don't know, bro, just fucking win until you qualify. Don't think about that. Like,
yeah, honestly, until you said something, I just assumed that it functioned the way it did in Crystal Cups in the past, which was like, okay, here's the top 4. One of you is a qualifier. Who's in 5th? Congrats, you made Nats. Like,
if it's not 5th, then it's 6th. If it's
so
not 6th,
honestly, to hear that may not be the case is surprising to me, because I haven't been in the situation you were in Florida, where there is a potential with so many pre-qualified individuals in that tournament that being in 11th is a realistic roll down potential scenario.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that anything was different. I just assumed, like Moogle Man, that just behaved the way it did in Crystal Cups. Who's in 5th? Okay.
Which would make the most sense. But yeah, as I heard it, it feels like it's a little different. And maybe I'm just wrong. Maybe I misheard it. Maybe Kelly Thatcher misheard it. And if it is, blame Kelly Thatcher at Kelly Thatcher. You text him and you say, "You idiots! What did you hear? What slander?" And then he's going to say, "Dylan believed that." Is probably going to be his rebuttal. Yeah, I love fucking with him, but that's just the kind of guy Kelly is. But no, I think overall it's one of these things where it's like, God forbid I'm not qualified yet. And which, for the record, anybody qualifying is not like anybody's given. That is not
no
64 slots is real tight. But
yeah, I wasn't joking when I was doing commentary and saying, every even store championships that you go to are just stacked, because there's so few. Right, there's so few events.
Yeah.
That any event you go to, whether it has 20 people or 116 people, there's a trained room of Final Fantasy TCG killers in that room.
Yeah. like
no joke.
It's intimidating. And what's worse with store championships is those are really wild west bubbles, right? Since the bubble gets so small, the Chaos Arc deck that keeps coming up, and that's won a couple of things here recently. Which, real quick, Mike, what's your thoughts on this Chaos Arc deck? Is it memeing, or is it like actually really good?
Okay, so I know Alex loves it.
And who are we to tell?
Alex that it's? But even he has acknowledged that, hey, there are some times that I just lose with 5 dark cards.
He's like, I won't lie, it's a bit memey, guys. I won't lie.
Sleepy Rain Dog, Rainy was love her to death. She was running that against me on Octagon, and I think we did a couple best of 3s, and they usually ended up the same way. It would pop, and I insta losed.
Right.
I just insta lost, and then I just kill it in 2 games, really quickly, and didn't even have to worry about chaos hitting the board, let alone Arc being cast. The events you're seeing it win, it's hard to go like seriously say, okay, that's a contender, because it is winning the store championships that are on the smaller side.
Right.
The 12 people, the 14 people, the 15 people store championships. And those are, 4-round affairs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
talking about scary tournaments. 4 rounds is just like, fuck, dude. All right, I can't lose.
Right. And you would think that they're probably doing a top 4 cut, but I could imagine some of them doing a top 8 cut, in which case 2/3 of the field is making it. Yeah. So even if the deck goes 2-2, like it may end up in the top cut, and then it just has to win twice. Yeah. Right. And all of a sudden it's in first or second. So it's a little hard to get a bead on it. I personally wouldn't play it. I know my luck with 6 freaking dark cards in a deck.
Yep.
I tried that fun stuff with Cam and Chaos and multiple darks, and trying to see if I could get Necron to work back in the day. And just like, my luck says I will mulligan into 4 dark cards and I'll be dead.
Every time. Yeah.
So I personally wouldn't run it. I am interested. I do expect to see it this weekend in California, because it's caught on a little bit. Mm-hmm. I'll be interested to see how it does there.
Yeah. I think that's kind of like the tried and true test. Like, how refined are these cards and to navigating a handful of dark cards, right? Because
now you have to win 5 out of 7 minimum,
right,
to make your top cut, and then you have to win best of 3 in a top 16 cut. Mm-hmm. That's where the test is,
right,
on its viability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think the other part for me too is obviously, like, and I've FF Decked played it a handful of times because I'm intrigued, and I think it's like a fun combo. Like on paper, I want this to be like not the best deck in format, but I want it to be playable because I'm like, yeah, Chaos. I've been wanting that one. I've been saying for a long time. I'm like, that deck's in such a good position with the multi-element plays right now.
Yep.
And Arc being free just sounds like absolute gas. But I think every time I built it, it was like, two Chaos, 2 Arcs, or one and maybe 3 or something. Like 4 is usually as brave as I get. And then Ryan Shen's out here in Kansas, 3-3-6 of these things. I'm just like, what in God's name? What bravery, stupidity? It is the true definition of this.
Yep.
Of this game. And I'm baffled, right? Because I'm with you. I'm drawing those cards.
Oh,
I'm
no doubt.
3 of those cards, no questions asked.
I'm mulliganing into them. Yeah. I have a 1 backup hand, but it doesn't play out well, so I mulligan, and I'm like, oh, cool. Chaos, Arc, Shantoto.
Yeah.
Great. This is amazing.
I'll tell you right now how that's going to go, too, right? Here's the mental mind games you're going to be playing. It's you versus your deck eventually, right? And then it's going to be, all right, cool. I drew 3 dark cards. Let's mulligan that. I mulligan 2 and then drew the 3rd. And it's like, well, that feels bad. And then you're going to have days where you're going to be like, all right, I have 1 dark card. Keep your hand. Let's not gamble anymore, right? And then you're going to hit 2 off the top. And you're going to be like, why in God's name did I play this deck, right?
Yeah, I either draw them all or they all go to damage. One of the two.
Yes.
One of the two. I will say that in testing online, playing against it, I haven't been running it, but playing against it, it is super susceptible sometimes to discard.
Yeah.
Like it can get really punished with like an Earth Ice, full cash in, Unalesca, Weiss, Biblos, all that fun stuff. Ice Lightning, not so much because it can't do some of the resource revival that the Earth deck can do for Unalesca.
Right.
But it can get punished. And you would think, hey, that's not bad. I could discard dark cards and front load an Arc. And the first time you do it, you feel good about it.
Right.
But when you start losing those pieces and then get Mistdragoned on top of it,
and you lose the 6 best cards in your deck now.
Exactly. Yeah, things start to snowball pretty badly sometimes.
Yeah. Jason said it should be based on seeding going into top, and then based on performance in top. And the rest is hazy, to be honest. I haven't really dug into it. Yes, see? That's what I'm saying.
All right, so you were right.
Yeah. FFTCG online points out, he's like, I like mono water since there are ways to discard extra dark cards. No, I'm with you, right? Tonberries are so good for that right now. Poo-poos are super good for that. So, I would frankly just run it in mono, but then you really want the Une splash on it. David mentions, by the way, at first he says, invites passed down. And I'm like, okay, but can you clarify? Like in Florida, we have people going in. He said, let me double check. We may have them play for their ranking. If it's up to me, I'd run bottom 4 of top 8. Which, makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but so case in point, he's like, let me double check. He's not even sure, right? I'm like,
right.
Okay.
So now we've had Jason not be sure,
tournament?
David not be sure. They can check, and both of them are giving conflicting answers.
Yes, right. So this intrigues me even more.
So we aren't the only ones confused. That's
right.
At least that's good to know.
If David and Jason are confused, all right, I'm in good company then, right? So here's an interesting thought. Then, is it run by? I'm literally telling I'm literally just streaming and talking about this exact topic, right? But then is there a tournament run aspect to it, which makes even less sense, because if David's saying, if it's up to me, which I'm not saying he's implying that, in San Diego, this is how it works versus this is how it works in Florida. But is there a concept that the TOs kind of get to decide how that, which would be sus?
Well, and then what happens when you do what Collector's Cash did and you open it up to a top 32?
Right.
Because then the second day performance can be skewed by half of those people typically would not have been there.
Yeah.
And what if they do well? There were, I think, when I went back and looked at the trees afterwards for that, I think there were 3 upsets, not upsets, but 3 matches where the person that lost was in the top 16 playing against somebody in the bottom 16 that would not have been there.
Right.
Under normal circumstances.
Exactly. If it was just top cut, then it would be like a
right.
top 16.
And the top 32 thing I had asked prior to the stream starting, and I got in contact with Rochelle, and I was like, look, was this a store's discretion decision, or is this Materia Cups going forward?
Right.
And Rochelle had said that's a store discretion thing. They chose to go 32.
Right.
And I was getting ready to go on stream, so I couldn't, but I really wanted to ask, why were they allowed to do this? Because
this can influence a tournament.
This can influence things. And if, you know, what like Jason is saying through chat, through friends of ours in chat,
yeah,
that your day 2 performance can be impacted by and potentially into a roll down scenario when you weren't even supposed to have been in a top cut under normal circumstances anyway.
right.
So yeah, a little weird.
And I objectively, like, if you make it a case of saying like is top 16, you know, like the only official way, right? I'm like, do I hate that? No, I kind of like, I didn't hate when I heard top 32. I was like, cool, that's kind of exciting. I could be,
yeah,
like,
I didn't either. And
yeah,
you know, everybody likes making a top cut, and it gives
right.
more people a chance and stuff like that. But when you have 6 cups and one of them opts to do top 32,
And then the other do top,
and then the other do top 16, and there are roll down scenarios that get
yeah.
odd, it's just why further complicate things.
This is the educator and statistician in me that's kind of like, we are not creating repeatable, consistent results
Right.
for
This
these
is not
things.
exactly the scientific method here.
Right. We have definitely thrown the scientific method out in rule of TO options, and it's just like, and thankfully, again, I'm not accusing any of the TOs at all for making good or bad decisions, or that Kansas is bad for doing top 32. I was here for it, even though I couldn't even make top 32. But it's
and we liked it as a spectator, so
yeah,
I don't.
As a spectator and a fan, I'm like, cool, I get more matches to watch. And frankly, I think that there are times where it's like decks 17 through 32, you have some really creative, like on the fringe decks that like maybe just don't make it. And then for that to get more awareness, right? Like that's the geek in me where I'm like, bro, how many decks were like also 5-2 throughout the day but didn't make the cut, but were like banger, like Tori Kelly likes decks, right? Like these weird monster decks and things like that. That's like, if they just, you know, you take that deck and it's objectively a winning deck, it just depends on matchups and tournament magic, right? That like that deck could have won if it got paired up in the right matchups, but it just got 17th on this one particular day. So for awareness sake, I like it. For more games, I like it. On a
consistency standpoint, maybe not so much.
Not so much, yeah. For make this system that we are largely just putting our trust into and we don't know the rules makes sense, then no, I'm a little on the fishy side of it. But enough about that. I guess when we all sort that out, we probably won't get the answers before this stream ends, unfortunately. But
you come back and pin it as a comment.
I know we have some of the greatest minds possible working on it, allegedly. So between
top
Jason and
men, top men.
Yes.
And women.
Yes. Top men, women, all the finest.
But I got to throw the Indiana Jones quote out there. Who do you have looking into this? Top men. Top men.
Yes. But I guess on a little bit of some wind down thoughts. I'm trying to think of if I've covered all of the fun topics. So what other tournaments are you going to? Let's banter a little bit on this.
So this coming weekend, not this weekend, it's the Materia Cup. I'm not going to California. The following week, the 10th, it's been in the air for a long time. My son and I were either going to go to Michigan or to Kingston in Canada.
Yeah. I wanted to go to so many of the Canada ones. It just wasn't work out.
Yeah, some of our content creation friends have been trying to get me up there for a while. So I did go to the Ottawa one. This one's a little closer, thank God.
Kingston's in a weird position though, right? It's like right between Ottawa and Toronto and like an uncomfortable like distance. Yeah.
And like right on the like awkward side of the lake there.
Yeah.
So my son and I were tossing it up, like, are we going to go to Detroit? And there's some Pittsburgh crew that are going to go to Detroit as well.
Right.
And so I left it up to my son, and my son says, I want to go to Kingston. So we have tickets to both, but I'm just going to give my 2 Detroit tickets to some of the other Pittsburgh crew. We're going to head to Kingston. I think that's because he's 19 and he very much enjoyed when we went to Ottawa. Being able to go to the,
I don't blame him for that.
go to the casino and buy a beer because the drinking age and the gambling age were 19. So he had a blast after we both got bounced from Top Cut in Ottawa. So I'll be on the 10th. I'll be at Kingston.
Yep.
At Action Pack Comics. The next Materia Cup I'll be at is North Carolina. With the RVA returners, baby.
Raleigh's gonna be a party.
Oh,
that one's gonna be nuts. That one's gonna have so many drinks before the tournament even starts.
No doubt, some people will be playing hungover. And then store championship wise, after that, it will be Morgantown, West Virginia, and Ohio. I'll be at both of those.
Northern Ohio has that one. It's like it's like 6 hours from me. It's Chicago distance away.
Yeah, so I still have 3 3 store championships and 1 cup at minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're doing the whole cup tour, basically.
Bro, listen. You got to get the subscribers somehow, right? Like, yeah, I'm on. I've got Dallas is the next one, so I'm doing, like I said before, every cup other than San Diego, because San Diego just was which was so frustrating. Like, so many. First of all, San Diego's just delightful. And secondly, like, California is a second family to me. I wear a light jersey, and everybody assumes that I'm like NorCal, and I live there, or whatever.
I thought you were the first time I met you.
Everybody does,
because you rolled in with Greg and everybody, and I'm like, oh, that he just, Dylan must. I didn't know that. He must be. I just
went to LA so often that they became like one of my first crews, really. And then, like, from there, I was like, Greg, where's my jersey, bro? I'm here so often, and he's just like, literally, you want one, and that's how that all happened. And I love Greg. I'll support him and the light, especially, as much as humanly possible, because it's amazing. But yeah, so I love getting confused as like California local, and I'm like, bro, I'm East Coast. I'm on Kentucky, brother. I'm on Central Standard Time. Like, yeah, it's wild. So we got Dallas coming up, and then I think it is, if I recall correctly, it's Dallas and then the 1 store championship that I'm going to so far, unless I start getting really washed through all these and I'm desperate for a Nats slot.
Yeah, then all of a sudden that 6-hour drive to Ohio is looking so bad.
Then your boy might be going to Ohio here sometime soon, right? But
you'll walk in and it'll be like, how are you, my friend? You don't have the invite yet, do you?
You're gonna see me with a beard that's like this big, and I'm like, I haven't stopped playing. I have not stopped playing this entire time.
I was playing on my dashboard while driving.
Yeah, 3 people died. Too bad for them. I guess they're not getting Nat spots this year. Yeah, so we've got Dallas, and I think between then there's actually a Phoenix one. And for whatever reason, I decided I'm going to go to Phoenix because Phoenix sounded like it was going to be really fun. Emmanuel's out there; he's a homie. Rainey's out there. California crew is rolling in, and I've got a good friend of mine lives down in Tucson, which is only an hour and a half south. So
nice.
I was going to make that kind of like a quick little getaway trip that's going to be in and out for the weekend. And maybe if I haven't qualified then, store championships, that's it. But then, yeah, then it's on the Raleigh, and then it's 4 weeks out. It's on to Portland, right? Portland, yeah. Portland. God, we're already that deep into the pool. And then Portland is like that many weeks later. Dude, Portland is going to be really quickly. I want to say right now how excited I am in theory about Portland. In execution, that is going to be the most insane, most mentally ill tournament ever. It will be a new set. A new set will drop before then. It will be the last tournament. This is effectively the Dark Crystal Cup of this run, and everybody's last chance qualifier.
Yep.
That's going to be a whole nutty thing. I'm eagerly waiting to see all of the ridiculousness of that.
Yeah. Good luck prepping for that one.
That's
going to be a really tough meta read. Really tough meta read.
I'll tell you right now what I'm doing. I'm going to build the scariest, angriest deck I can for that one because I'm like, screw it. I'm going to build a deck that I have to worry the least on everybody else. If it's 13 at a time, fades into lightning gift or whatever. It's just going to be like, I'm a lightning player now.
Right. That was like back in the day, right? When a new set came out, if you were going to anything competitive, you took mono lightning or you took mono water just because it was safe and consistent and you did your thing.
If you're doing your thing.
I mean, that was a while ago, but.
Yeah. Well, mono water to a lesser degree is still kind of popular.
Yeah, it still does it. Yeah, lightning not so much.
Lightning a little less so, but hey, I mean, listen, Kingsglaive is still playing, kind of, man. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's a fun deck, but
I hate playing against it.
It suffers right now because the meta is so tuned against Break Zone 8.
Yeah, we are hating breaking. We're hating backups and Break Zone right now.
Yeah, which makes it like a preemptive before Nyx is out. Break Zone is just like, oh, that feels bad.
Yeah.
And I mean, the mono water deck is what creates that situation the most, right? Mm-hmm. It's like as soon as I see a Leviathan and or a second one or a Lena in there, you're not playing Lena. I'm misdragoning this now.
Yeah.
And then unfortunately, Kingsglaive gets caught up in that.
Yeah, it's the dicey waters of this deck kind of functions in strengths to this deck, so it's in the chopping block for that reason, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think if I was braver, and nobody's gonna scout Dylan Camacho for his tournaments if they're nobody gives a shit what he's playing. So
right, nobody cares what the hell I'm playing either. Even on my own stream, I'm like, guys, I will consider myself an above average player, at best.
Yeah, that's what I'm giving myself. I'm like, most of the time, I finish probably in the top 50% of tournaments. Some of the times I don't even finish. So that's the name of the game, right?
60% of the time it works. Every time.
Exactly. Yeah, like I think right now I really want to run Leo. I may save it for a store championship though, because I just get the impression that the too much backup hate is going to get really annoying. Yep. Like everybody running 3 CP Hekkas, it kind of feels like the right call right now with the Wool deck. So that kind of feels like a bad call because they share that same weakness.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do I go Soiree again? I love busty anime girls. I'm always standing them. So
it's safe, it's strong, and you know it.
And you know it. And you can EX tech it. And there's what I like about Soirees is that there's about 15 to 20 cards that you're like, okay, your Soirees in theory. I have no idea what the other 15 cards in this deck are doing though. So
yep,
that's a good show.
And hell, sometimes it just X bursts its way to a win.
Right. Do I just run Chaos Arc and just say fuck it? I'm gonna leave it all to the gods at that point.
Dude, I like the set you would have on you if you do it. Like
I
would be your biggest cheerleader, I'll tell you that much.
I would cheerlead myself just for saying like I think that just deck is fun to watch regardless if it's winning or losing. Like it's like this is fun. You know, there are sometimes you just see somebody playing, you're like, this absolute madman. I love you for what you're like, the braveness of your decisions for this.
Those are what I call in our local scene the 10%ers.
Yeah.
That's what I refer to those deck as. If you watch me play this, the one time it pops off and that's all you see, you will build it as soon as you get home. Then you will realize the other 90% it never gets off what it's supposed to do.
That's what Oki was saying for the most part after Florida. He's like, yeah, dude, people are gonna rush to Ice Earth and then realize that it's fucking hard as hell to pilot, and good luck trying to like survive and stave off like aggro decks whenever you're doing it in mid range over long periods of time.
You got to know what you're doing. Like I babied my Earth Ice build for 3 weeks,
right?
Before.
No, and I remember you had your video talk about how close yours like deck was to like Matt, like even Oki's at that point, and it's just
I was stunned. It was like a 5-card difference,
right?
And I was like, shit, did I read this room right?
Yeah, there's an objective.
Went 5-2 and just had some unfavorable type. I will take this to start the season. Thank you very much.
No, that's kind of like where my headspace is. I'm like, you know what? That's how I convince myself I'm a good player. I'm like, okay, I brought a brew deck, and I had a good feel on what's going on in the meta, despite the fact I have to like, you know, get breadcrumbs from like FF or like NA page and like the Japanese like Twitter ones or whatever. Which if you're not following, that's the only reason you should have a Twitter app, is to keep up with the Japanese metas and players, and they're awesome articles because they're doing a great job of putting their stuff out. But yeah, and then I don't know, 13's overdue to win a tournament. 13's it's either going to have its time or we are going to continually have a gun to that deck's head the entire time.
Hey man, 2nd out of 116 at a Crystal Cup, losing to Sam Prime on a Wool deck. It might as well have won in my book. It might as well have won.
Yeah, Patrick Panatoni. Yeah, Panatoni. Yeah,
Patrick.
Bro, yeah. I mean, so if it actually wins, or is it always going to be the bridesmaid, not the bride? That's a story for another time. I guess we'll see. San Diego, TBD. I think there's some angry gamers in San Diego. So.
Oh yeah.
I'll be very intrigued to watch that and see whoever commentates. I don't know. It's not me and it's not Mike, I guess. So.
Nope. We'll see.
I'm getting hammered, putting it up on the side, and playing Street Fighter 6. So if you're playing Street Fighter 6, by the way, make sure to add me or hit me up in the comments below. I'll throw my tag down there and we'll throw some games. And be upset that we haven't qualified for Nats yet because we don't know how to. Anyway, let's go ahead and wrap the show. Mike, where can they catch you?
You can follow me. The most common place is on Twitter at RC Radio, RAIDEO. Easy way to remember it is go to readycheckradio.com.
Yep.
All the socials are in the upper right: Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, all that fun stuff. We do a Square Enix podcast, a general gaming podcast, an FFTCG local stream once a week, and all kinds of other fun stuff. So stop by, follow, like, thumbs up, feed the algorithm, senpai, and all that stuff.
Yes, give it all. There's so few of us content creators for Final Fantasy. Give us some credit, guys. We're working really hard out here. So make sure to go check that out. If I'm a good host, I'll get around to putting it into the description in the comments below. If I'm a mid host, which I am, we'll see what I'm doing right after I turn the stream off. We'll see. But yeah, as always, if you like the content we're doing over here on the FM Podcast channel, we're doing everything else on this channel too. It's not just Final Fantasy. We do a bunch of movie reviews and dumb shit. This is kind of just our like, hey, if you like a thing and you want to do a video about it, this is that channel for it.
Nice.
So if you want to watch movie reviews with me and 3 other randos, go check that out. In the meantime, I'm going to keep putting these blog podcasts out and hopefully get more guests. You know who I want to grab? I haven't talked to him in person yet, but I want to grab Ghoul. Ghoul really made a name for himself after Kansas because everybody was like, it's the Ghoul tech now.
Yep.
And then he popped up in algorithms finally. I'm like, this motherfucker been spitting for a minute. Like, I was kind of like mad that I didn't know. I was just like, why are we not talking about this guy? So I want to get Ghoul on. That's what I need to get. And it's probably not that hard. I could probably just DM him and be like, hey, you want to come on to the next thing I do? And
yeah.
We're all pretty easy about that. Anyway, if you like the content, as always, let us know in the comments below what you think. Does the system make sense? Do you know how it works? Please let me know. Give us a thumbs up and hit the bell if you want to know the next time that we put up content. I usually post it on the NA page because we post a lot of other dumb stuff on this channel that you may not be interested in. But otherwise, go check out Mike's stuff on Ready Check Radio, spelled in a way that will confuse you. And
no, it's radio, as in an MMO raid. Although I am intelligent, if you just spell it Ready Check Radio as in RADIO, I own that URL and it redirects.
Ah, see, smart man. I need to get a whole website on it. But FN Podcast gave a lot of questionable search results, so I decided
I bet
not to get to that one. Anyway, guys, that's our show. Make sure to tune in. I don't know, give me like 8 weeks or something, and I'll put out a new episode because I gotta wait for some Texas or something, bro. No, it's like 4 weeks out or something. So like 4 or 5 weeks out. Unless I do really bad, then I'll put it off like I did Kansas, and I'll put it off for like 6 weeks, and it's gonna be a double feature between Texas and Phoenix or something. Anyway, bye guys. Stay strong. Have fun in San Diego if you're there. Good luck. Have fun and see you there. Bye. And